like you said, he's got 3 rings, right? And just to clarify, none of those rings are with Toronto, right?
Is Fraser Minton going to have more points than Slafkovsky this year? Fraser Minton sucks at hockey. This guy might not even be an NHLer, so we got to settle down on that one.
Adelaide, no. Minus 160 on will they show her holding a drink in her hand.
They are 2 points behind the St. Louis Blues in the wild card, and they are.
Oh, the Blues are dog water. The Blues suck. And the Blues are the worst of those 4 teams that I mentioned by a mile.
And
they're not a good hockey team.
Care, like have some set of balls, have some response, have some pride for what the hell goes on the ice. It's so absurd.
I'm looking forward to the parade, but that's going to be later in the year.
I'd rather have so money in that than have Arbor Soda Ball. I would rather stack a bunch of garbage that I have in the corner of my room over here than have Arbor Soda Ball in that. He's
April 2nd, welcome back to Edgework, presented by Stacks. I'm Zack Phillips, joined here on this Tuesday morning, this disgusting Tuesday morning by Alex Moretto, Matt Russell, here to break down the 8 NHL games on tonight's schedule, give out our best bets, answer questions from the chat, all that good stuff. But before we can get into any of that, I want to remind people, if you haven't already, you should be signed up at the Stacks Betting Exchange. If you're sick of getting limited and profiled, you're sick of turning on your app or opening your app, you can only bet $30, $40. Well, no more. Head on over to the Stacks Betting Exchange, a unique sports betting exchange that offers higher limits and better pricing, offering a fair and real-time marketplace for users to bet on the outcome of sporting events, offering better odds in a peer-to-peer marketplace. Stacks is the best option for anyone who wants to wager on live sports. Add Stacks to your list of outs and sign up today. You can get commission-free trading when you sign up now. The option is yours at Stacks. Make sure to check that out as well. If you want to join the conversation, click the link in the description of the show here. You can join, head on over there, talk about bets that you're looking to have filled, positions that you're looking to post, no matter what sports that's in. So head on over to the Stacks Betting Exchange. But boys, it's a bounce back day. Matt, I don't know if you saw the picture today, but I was hoping you were going to be leading it with... I mean, you know, we get on here, we started talking about trampolining, and we got trampolining in the picture. We're talking about the Olympics, talking about Olympic songs.
Zach
thinking you're going to spearhead it's high energy today, and we need a bounce back, gentlemen. 1-4 last night.
Zach's hitting us with the French version of the 2010 Olympic theme song.
No, I wish I could do the French version.
I believe. You're talking about trampolines. I was like, I don't remember having a conversation about trampolines, but I'll get into one if you want. Let's go, boys. Like, I'm fired up. You know, I understand that the vibes might be a little bit low. There's an alleged bounce back needed here. You know, I didn't really have anything to do with that, but you know, I'll help us get us out of this. You know, I'll bring the energy a little bit higher than normal. Okay. See, I didn't even. Yeah, I'm not. That's that's nice. Was that?
Why do you look like Lionel Messi in this picture?
You know what? I'll take it. I think he's fine.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great. I think he does look like.
I think he does just fine. Yeah, fired up. Let's get this party started, disgusting style here. You know, let's really bring it home for the team here. April, who knew?
I know Moretto's got a men's league championship under his belt. He's ready to go here. He's ready to turn things around. The Habs are,
and we couldn't be prouder.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I envy him. I didn't get the men's league championship myself. Lost in a fucking shootout. We had to break that one down on Friday.
Well, the bad shootout variance on Edgework continues. You know,
I know.
I told my family during Easter dinner all about it, guys.
Yeah,
so, we are there on the edge. Of
just
like everybody
carrying
else.
over everything from the show into my men's league. But it's time to change things. Time to turn it around. It's time to bounce back. So far on the season, 320, 342, and 13. 675 bets. We have a 1.6% ROI. We are up 10.9 units. Let's just say the drop off since All-Star break has been felt here on the show.
The book style. Except,
yeah.
Instead of going from like -4 to -9, we're going from at least like 7 to 2. So you know that's
nice. It's
same
nice
drop
to have
from a better starting point at least.
Still green on the year, but yeah, not being as pretty. But you know what? Fuck it. Today that changed.
Last night was disgusting.
Some are saying the group is spending too much time in the lab.
Mm-hmm. Too much time.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Again, I'm only here on Tuesdays, so I couldn't say what the lab times are looking like, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough scene. Maybe
Yeah, we need
should
to.
never have started trying.
What is this like? Well, you guys closed all the tabs. You should have closed all the tabs.
Maybe we
My
got
tabs are
overrun
tapped.
by the tabs.
I'm
as
tab free.
Yeah.
society.
I'm tab
Tabless.
free now.
Question for you
straight
guys
from the
here.
gut.
Our friend E Colts in the chat. You guys think lines are sharper or just variance? What would you
Yes.
chalk this up to? Like since All-Star break, a combination of both.
Yeah, I would say it's a combo. Like lines definitely get obviously sharper as the season goes on. The market gets smarter. People, the money coming into the market gets smarter. The books are everything's smarter. Everything's sharper, like for sure. But there's also bad variance. I mean, we're on the right side of a lot of these. We're getting some really good closing line value. I don't know. You look at last night, like the Edmonton over 6. Like we get almost 4 expected goals in the second period. And 1 goal is actually scored. You finish 3-2. San Jose, Seattle, there's like 3 expected goals. There's like 10 shots, and we're 3-2. And then you get an empty netter with seconds left to push the game over. Like, there's definitely bad variance that goes into this too. It is what it is. We'll turn it around eventually.
This is
right.
This is more. Yeah, this is more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like, you know what I mean? I feel like the process is right, and at one point the luck has to turn. The negative energy that has been pushed towards us by Alber. I'm feeding off of it now, and I got the negative vibes. I never used to look at a score and be like, oh, I can't wait to see how this one loses. Now that's what I'm doing. Now that's what I'm doing.
A provocative take to just blame Alber, and I don't disagree with it by any means conceptually. I just think, like, for me, listen, I'm only on here every Tuesday, and it feels like I just get pummeled every Tuesday, and then things get righted over the next 3 or 4 days after that. I don't know. Like, have you guys found a lot of teams blowing 3-goal leads, in general, but particularly in the third period? Like, there's an element of might just be that time of year where, as much as you want to believe every team is focused in the way that we want them to be focused on a night-to-night basis, especially looking at the standings, right? Like, I mean, when was the last time there was some true jostling in the standings that is meaningful in any way, right? Especially even in the West, where you're like, if you have hypothetically, if you were, had one of those teams as the team of your youth, and you were interested in trying to figure out who they're going to play in the playoffs, like, are there any good answers? Like, there's not, so it's like, you can be looking at the standings and just being like, okay, it's the same kind of thing over and over and over here for a lot of these teams. And so, obviously that's kind of on a matchup to matchup basis. And so, like, you can handicap a game pretty correctly through 2 periods. And then all of a sudden, just the wheels kind of come off. And I mean, that's variance, that's hockey, that's, whatever. But that just seems to be happening, at least once a night, with some of these teams just kind of just absolutely yakking up leads. I mean, the Leafs almost did it yesterday. I don't mean to sort of, bring it back around to the Leafs, because God forbid, and lack of interest in talking about that team. But had another goal gone in, right? It's like complete catastrophe. And so that could have possibly happened, right? And it just seems like on a nightly basis, some rough third periods are happening where it's like, would you rather be the team up 3 goals in the third period, or the team that has to come back, and inevitably wins in overtime or whatever, right? I'd just rather be the guy who had the team that has a 3-goal lead.
Yeah, I don't want to relive that third period. I'll watch the first 40 of last night's Leafs game over and over again. The third period, I'll forget about it. I'll forget about that. Yeah. Before we get into the games here today, I need 2 things from people watching. First, I need you to like the stream. There's just not enough. It's about a third of the people watching right now have hit the like button. Come on, what are we doing here? Hit the like button, get those up. The second thing I need people to do is...
And winners?
You're already... well, maybe report and ban Alber from the chat.
Is the lack of likes what's killing the vibes?
It might be. It might be. But I also need people... You're already subscribed. We know that. You're watching the show. You're already subscribed. And we appreciate it. But you need to turn on notifications, because some of you are missing the start of the show. You're missing important stuff to kick off things. You're missing bets within the first 5 minutes. That's not good enough. And you're also missing when we go live for watch-alongs, like we are this Thursday night. We'll be live Thursday for another watch along to kind of watch along the ends of some second periods into the third period of some of the 7 o'clock games, kicking off the first periods of some of the later games there as well. You're going to want to see those, maybe some live betting opportunities, maybe some last minute player props or last minute numbers that we jump on as we go into the later games. Why would you miss that? Why would you want to miss that?
Also, Zach is going to do something really stupid on Thursday night. We don't know what yet. We have to figure out exactly what this punishment is, but he's going to do something really stupid. And,
I usually do really stupid stuff on Fridays
though.
and Saturdays, but we're going to also do it on Thursday this week. So, yeah, we'll throw that in there.
Also, some LSU gymnast just popped up on my Twitter feed, and my vibes are suddenly much higher. So,
is her name?
I think we got some winners on the card.
Yeah,
I don't know.
By the name of Livy Dunn.
I'm not sure.
Is she really hot and dating a picture of the Pittsburgh Pirates?
All I know her as by this tweet is some noble, feminine, all-American sweetheart. So
I saw that same tweet. So yep, that would be her.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Nice. Not a bad thing to have pop up on your timeline.
I don't
Probably.
Yeah.
Sets good vibes for the rest of the show, and something we need Alber to bring to the chat here. Good vibes, positive vibes only. Let's get into tonight's games here, boys. We've waited long enough. There's 8 on the schedule. We don't have as many bets, but we'll also try to answer questions from the chat if people have those as well, so we can dig into some of that. But I want to start in Buffalo tonight, where the Buffalo Sabres are hosting the Washington Capitals. Buffalo minus 130 here. Caps currently sitting plus 118. You can find that at a couple shops, but one of those being at Stacks there as well. We're seeing some totals of 5.5, but it's creeping into the 6 range there. If your book does offer 5.5, likely move into 6 now. So totals of 5.5 and 6 across. Matt, what are your thoughts on this game? Do you have any involvement here in this one?
Yeah, not quite yet, but I'm. It looks like I'm going to here, and this goes back to our. The comment about whether it's variance or tighter lines. That's kind of a theme for me for these games today, where like the games that qualify as a bet for me are barely qualifying to the point where like I didn't feel comfortable giving them in our chat this morning because I wasn't positive that these lines necessarily might exist 10 to 15 to 20 minutes later. Buffalo minus 130 for me does, again, barely qualify as a bet. My quote unquote target price, and this is again thematic of the entire day here, target price for the Sabres is minus 136. So it's like we're not exactly getting like the greatest deal of all deals here. Don't get me wrong. And we shouldn't expect to get the greatest deal of all deals either, right? But you can see on the odds board right now that there are certain places that don't even qualify, based on being sort of shorter than 136. So minus 130 is good enough for me. I'm going to make that bet here probably while Alex is talking in the next couple of minutes. So yeah, I mean, that to me, that is quote unquote the best one, because as we'll get into some of these other ones throughout the board, the scar tissue for some of these teams, as we'll discuss, is getting thicker, I guess, is what scar tissue does. Whereas at least the Sabres, that's medium scar tissue, medium well done. So yeah, Sabres for me at the minus 130 price. But again, like we're not getting any steals out here.
Minus 130 is available at multiple shops there, best price available, and it is available at some widely available shops as well. So we'll lock that one in as our first official bet. And Moretto, let's just put the kiss of death on this one. We have it's not a double best bet, but we have another bet in this same game.
I don't know what is happening here because we have 2 bets same game, but we also have maybe a lean off here. I don't know, but Matt actually bet it, so it's like a bet versus a lean. I don't know what's going on. The vibes were up. He said Sabres. I coiled back into my shell here. But yeah, I just think the wheels have fallen off. I agree, like price wise and everything. That's why I didn't actually bet it. I think numbers wise maybe makes sense. See where they are. I don't think the Caps are a good team. This is a team that's been fighting for their lives and still is not playing good hockey. They just can't. I don't think they're fully capable of playing good hockey because they're not a very good hockey team. But they are finding ways to get results, and the wheels have kind of fallen off for Buffalo. It's turned to shit. Defensively, it's all out nightmare. They're giving up all sorts of chances. Like if you look at the last kind of few weeks, they are allowing 3.33 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. That's pretty crazy. Those are some insane numbers. That's the worst mark in the league. That's probably the worst mark for any team, I'd venture to say, over like a 3-week stretch this season. Maybe San Jose or Chicago got to that at one point. But yeah, offensively, they're still generating a decent amount. UPL, I think the kind of like first full season for him is sort of taking its toll a little bit. His play has dipped quite a bit. Washington, not able to limit opponents all that much. So I do think that if this kind of goes that way, Buffalo's comfortable playing a game where it's kind of back and forth. Obviously, that's not how Washington wants to play, but I think they're kind of will be forced into that just based on the fact that they aren't able to play great defense right now. So yeah, I have over in this game. Under took a little bit of money at one point overnight. Apparently, people are lighting the board up at like 2:30 in the morning these days. I woke up to a brand new line this morning. And I was happy about it though, because I think now you can get plus money on that over 6. Yeah, that's good luck for me.
Over 6 plus money there is available at a pretty widely available book across Canada there. So we'll grab that as well.
Have we thought about the possibility that maybe the results and the vibes are low because of a lack of support for each other in these shows? Because Alex, I agree with your over. I think that's a nice.
I agree
nice
with Buffalo.
handicap.
I think it's going to be a 5-3 Sabres win. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just, it just was worth sort of mentioning that, first game of the day, it's like, well, counterpoint, Buffalo stinks. You know what? I know Buffalo stinks. I am fully aware that Buffalo stinks. You know who also stinks? Washington. So,
Yes.
Listen, yeah, I mean, I think this is 2 bad teams. And like, again, go back to last week, right? Where, I stayed off the Penguins. They were significant underdogs. Was Rangers last night, but who were the Penguins playing last Tuesday?
Last Tuesday.
Carolina. On the sort of right on this idea that like the Penguins are toast and blah blah blah, and it's like a week later they've got 2 wins against 2 of the better teams in the East, and so it's just like, yeah, whether it's sort of short term, how are a certain team playing in the last couple of weeks, what we think their sort of mindset is, all of that being said, it's just like, you know what, Matt, you just kind of got to go with whatever the numbers are telling you to do, even though it's just absolutely going to suck sometimes. So, caught a winner with the Penguins last night, sort of learned my lesson from last Tuesday in avoiding it. And so, you know what? Yeah, like I can't, obviously I'm not going to disagree with anything that Alex has said there. It's more just like, my numbers tell me to do it. I'm not going to kick myself when like I'm afraid of the Capitals or something like that, which, listen, we can have a larger conversation about the Capitals and and what they've been doing over the last few weeks and what their potential is going forward. But, we can save that for another day, I suppose.
I think one thing I'll add to that too is a lot of times later in the season, like you'll have teams that need to win. And they're not good. They need to win because they're not a good team, and they're in a position they're in because they're not very good. And that's kind of baked into the number. And then you have like people betting them because they need to win. But like just because you need to win a game does not mean you are going to win a game. You see that in the NFL every year too, where you have these inflated spreads late in the season, last week of the season for teams that need to win that are like laying like 7.5 points and they lose outright. Kind of similar down the stretch here, where like you kind of have the fuck it factor for Buffalo too, where it's like we're done, we have nothing to lose, like kind of balls to the wall situation where you just go out there and play loose. And then you have a team like Washington that needs it more. You're playing a bit tenser, you're playing a bit tighter. And the discount you kind of get on some of the teams that, that aren't in that need to win situation, like a Buffalo here tonight. It's like maybe ugly and you don't want to do it, but like oftentimes you kind of regret not pulling the trigger on those because you are getting a discount and probably shouldn't be getting a discount because I feel like sometimes needing to win works against teams a little bit too.
Right. And it's worth mentioning, I can break it down a little bit further as far as the individual teams are concerned, right? When I say like, we're not getting like the world's greatest deal here, I'll put it this way, right? My numbers say that Buffalo is 3% below an average team. The market right now prices them as 5% below average, right? It's a 2% sort of difference in that case. Washington, my numbers say that they're about a 12.5% below average team. The market says they're 10% below average, right? Like these are just fine. Like these are 1 and 2 percentiles type things, right? Where that's not necessarily, I mean, who knows what's going to happen tonight? One team could win 7-0, the other team could win 7-0, right? But the point is like, yeah, you add those two things together and you go, okay, so there's maybe like a little, that small of a difference. What does that difference accounted for in the betting market? One team's in a playoff spot and the other team isn't. Right. So one team, as Alex says, like needs to win. And therefore the idea is that they are, somewhat more motivated. And then the other team doesn't. And that's honestly, might be the 1, 2, 3% difference that we're talking about here.
All right. Well, let's talk about a team that's trying to stop a slide here tonight, and it'll be against Moretto's eliminated Montreal Canadiens. Montreal, best price available, plus 203 at Stacks. The Florida Panthers, minus 225, best price available on the other side. We're seeing some 5.5s pushing towards the 6 there as well in this one tonight. And Moretto, you've got a best bet for us in this game.
Yeah, I am on the under in this game. This is, I think, I'm just trying to pull up the prices here unless you got it up here. But yeah, I think we can still get kind of like minus 110-ish, no, minus 115 on 6. Okay. Yeah, minus 115 is fine. So I played the under 6. These are two teams that offensively have really sort of experienced a bit of a dip. Again, injuries kind of, Montreal had a couple lines going again. Then Joshua, I'm not saying, that he's like worth a ton to a total or anything like that. He's not. But when you're replacing it with basically like someone like Colin White, who isn't even an NHLer, it makes a difference. And they're at a point now where the offense has dipped off. Florida is kind of the same. They're struggling to generate a ton right now. Goaltending wise, like Stolarz has actually provided a better sort of baseline. You kind of know what you're getting from him. He's been very consistently good, especially of late. He's really sort of found his game and been playing some really good hockey in the last kind of 2 months or so. Montembeau's been awesome. I don't think this number should kind of be, it was a little bit better price earlier. The under has sort of consistently taken money here, but still good with it where it is now. I'd probably stop around the like minus 120-ish range. And I would want a 6 here, unless I'm getting like plus 105-ish or so on 5.5. I would definitely want to stick with the 6s.
So we'll grab under 6 there, minus 115, best price available, and it is available at numerous different shops. Matt, do you have any opinion on the Montreal Habs tonight?
No, we need like a plus 215 to get involved in the Habs. That's certainly like the closer side theoretically that I would have to bet on one side or the other. Don't think, I mean, listen, we might get there, but at that point it's sort of like, do I even want to be involved? Alex mentioned it, right? Florida, when they go from one goaltender to the next, there isn't that much of a drop off, even though Bobrovsky's like a Vezina candidate, right? Which is like, how about another thing that you got to feel really good about if you're the Florida Panthers going into the playoffs with, right? Like, it's like, remember last year, it's like we got, Lyon in net, and it's like, I'm not really sure what Bobrovsky's going to do. And he comes in like, game 3 or whatever, and then, is awesome and then takes them to the Stanley Cup. It's like, they don't even have that worry this year. I don't know if they're going to have the same goaltending, but they don't at least have the same concern going into the playoffs this year. So yeah, especially after that loss yesterday, where obviously they didn't love certainly the first 2 periods. I don't think you're going to get sort of the second day of a back-to-back kind of dip that you might see normally. So just going to be a pass for me, even if I get the sort of theoretical price that I'd want to get on Montreal. It's no bet for me.
3 best bets here already locked in for today's show. If you do enjoy the content, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. We'll recap all the picks at the very end of the show. And if you do want to see how we've done throughout the course of the year, head on over to the BetStamp app. You can find us in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. You can see all the picks that we've given out this year. You can see the picks on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, whatever. You want to break it down day by day. That's how you can do it. That's where to find it. But keep it moving here. A couple more games that we've got bets in. Next up, the Minnesota Wild and the Ottawa Senators here going head-to-head. Minnesota minus 137. The Sens plus 125. And again, some varying totals. You're seeing some 6s, minus 120, kind of moving towards that minus 125, and then into some plus money 6.5s. But Matt, you're not looking at the total. You're looking at a side in this game too.
Well, yeah, conceptually, right? So, we talked about,
it.
I talked about the tiny edge that pushed me to bet the Sabres. This would be the Wild, again, conceptually, with a target price of -140. I think we've got a bunch under. Yeah, again, it's like at the best possible price is -137. There are prices that are worse, and in some cases far worse than what I'm necessarily looking for, right? So it's like if you find one -137, in theory, that would be a bet for me to make on the Wild. Now, in reality, watching this team on Saturday with the pull the goalie in overtime garbage, like I think I'm good, man. I think I'm good on the Wild.
Yeah,
because it's like I don't even think you're doing the pulling the goalie thing correctly. And it was one thing the first time around because maybe they didn't even know, and we talked about it on the show, like maybe they didn't even know that you lose the point if the other team scores in overtime, right? It's possible that they weren't even aware of that rule because I don't know what the percentage of people were that necessarily know that rule. But when you do it the second time, you definitely know the rule, right? It will have come up in meetings, etc. So why aren't you doing this at the end of regulation where a goal would take away a point from the team that you're trying to catch, right? They're doing this to net 1 point, right? They're trying to get 2 points while having given up 1 point. Isn't the whole point to you're willing to burn the point that you're getting to prevent the other team from getting a point? Why aren't you pulling the goalie with 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes left in regulation to try to actually get a true, the money's worth, if you will, on this maneuver, right? So, I don't know what they're doing over there, what the whole, what the plan is. I mean, beyond the fact that I, kind of felt like they should have won that game in regulation. Vegas, of course, just couldn't, leave well enough alone and not score a rush goal with 6 minutes left in that game on Saturday. So yeah, I think I'm, again, as much as the numbers sort of say Minnesota is this team to back, it's just you take enough of these bullets as a better and honestly, if you're on the team, right? It's just I'm all set with this group. So technically you can find the number that is theoretically valuable to bet, but I'm just not getting involved with this group because I don't know what they're going to do from a goalie pulling perspective.
Okay, fair enough. So nothing there from that standpoint. Somebody did say in the chat here, Matt, I don't know if this makes you feel any better or not, but we are all Senators. So
yeah,
going the other way, fair
Good.
enough there. Yeah.
Good.
Moretto, any thoughts on this game between these two teams or the goalie pulling when it comes to overtime and losing the point?
The goalie pull we talked about. I don't think they know what's going on. I agree with Matt. I think that's insane. The timing, just pull it in regulation. None of it makes sense to me. The other team doesn't lose a point in overtime for losing. So it just, why are you doing it? Just try and, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I'm glad you didn't bet the Wild because I didn't want to. We're talking about supporting each other's bets, and I didn't want to be like, well, we have another lean off, but I do lean towards the Senators. I didn't bet it. I just these teams both make me sick. I can't get a game right with the Wild. The Senators are doing their late season. Let's look good again and get our fan base all hyped up for next year so we can just fall flat once again and then just repeat the cycle over and over.
Which is fundamentally just their goaltenders playing average
better,
instead of absolute dog crap, right?
They're getting a much higher baseline of play in net. I mean, you look at their game logs game by game, their underlying numbers. It's not all that impressive, depending on, based on their opponent, I guess. They're beating up on shit teams, and they're just kind of getting some good goaltending against, some of the better teams to win games. I think, if I had to make a bet on this game, definitely would go towards Ottawa just based on where these two teams are right now. I think this is a Wild team that's basically just, their season was just ended. I think they know that, and I think that'll kind of show at one point. So, yeah, I don't have anything in this game though. I don't want to keep doing this with the Wild. You bet their unders, and it's 3-3 on 13 shots. You bet their overs and 48 shots against, and Fleury turns back the clock to 2007. So honestly, fuck them. Glad they're not in the playoffs. Let's move on.
Well, yeah, I mean, not so good for the bet that we had made on Wild to make the playoffs, but fair enough.
If we didn't make that bet, they're on the Predators' path right now. They're winning 13 in a row.
Yeah. And as you said, it's unfortunate that this Senators team does that to all 35 of their fans out there, get their hopes up every summer. And then I just have to read on Twitter how they had the greatest offseason in the history of the NHL. And lo and behold, they're
Mark
fighting for a
Methot tweeting
lottery
about how they're
spot.
going to win the cup next year or 2 years
Yeah.
from now. And
it's sad.
a lot.
It's sad. Yeah.
I'm just happy
Poor-
that they passed the
people.
Habs in the standings officially now, and we're going to be drafting ahead of them. I couldn't sleep at night knowing the Senators were going to pick ahead of us.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving. We got a couple more games to look at, a couple more best bets. And the next one, surprise, surprise, it'll come with the Nashville. What are we calling these? Morettitors. The Nashville Morettitors. Nashville minus 102 here. The Bruins minus 105. And total of 5.5. There's a couple of sixes popped here, but we're mostly seeing 5.5s across the board right now. Moretto, what are your thoughts on this game, and how are you taking an approach to betting on this one?
Yeah, I don't have a bet on the side. Crazy how far we've come with Nashville, though. Crazy how far we've come. My lean would probably be with the Senators at this point, honestly. I'm sorry.
Senators are back.
Oh, guys, the vibes are. My lean would be with the Predators. I think it's wild though where we've gotten to with these prices. But they're warranted. Honestly, they're playing insane. At one point, I was like, well, they're beating up on bad teams and this will fade. And then they started beating up on good teams. And then it's like, well, this is, they're on a heater, they're peaking, this will fade. And it's like, it's not fading. And they're killing teams. And they are generating offense like we have not seen from anyone. I don't see how any Predators game right now could be lined at 5.5. I do not think that should be the case whatsoever. It's not like they're getting some insane goaltending. I know their defense has been solid, but they are just caving teams right now. They're generating chances and offense like nothing that we've seen at any point this season. You look at the last few weeks, 3.8 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5, just insane numbers. Boston has not necessarily played this stellar defense that we're kind of used to from them. They showed flashes of it, but they're back to just kind of league average sort of numbers right now, kind of coasting through maybe the last part of this season. Offensively, they're still creating quite a bit. This should be sixes across the board. So those 5.5 minus 120, those are a bet for me. So I bet over 5.5 here.
Scooping those up, minus 120, 5.5s up there. We'll grab some of those. There's a bunch out there, so everyone should be able to get those as well. But over 5.5, minus 120. And Mr. Russell, I think our friend Jordan might be on something. The hot gymnast getting Moretto. Talk about closing tabs. Moretto, maybe fucking close that one here. And
I had to open a new Twitter to look for news so I could not lose sight of that, that other one. I had to, every time I need the vibes up, I'm like, hey, change the tab.
Yeah, go back. Go
back to that tab. Okay, we're good.
Retreat. Alex is in full retreat mode. He's over on Threads just to try to get the whole thing. I think you were only talking about totals. That you might have been talking about the Predators rating in general, as far as how far we've come, right? Listen, I don't think it's a secret that on a regular basis we're always kind of maybe not necessarily fading the Bruins, but just sort of maybe we have the Bruins rated a little bit lower than the market does on a nightly basis or a weekly basis or whatever, which is. You take that and you sort of think about it that way, right? Where it's how rarely we sort of see value on the Bruins. I'm pretty close to seeing the Bruins as valuable in this game. And that's because the Predators rating, the way that they've been playing lately, has gotten to a point where all of a sudden, right? They are now up to the point where we're talking about essentially a pick'em game between the Bruins and the Predators. When would this have ever been the case?
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Even though it is in Nashville, it's we're still talking about something that would be Bruins minus 130, minus 140, et cetera, right? And it's they have been, playing great lately. That's, undeniable, right? But it's sort of okay, are we gonna step in front of this Predators thing right now? I mean, I think they've actually lost a couple games here in the last week, so maybe this is sort of time to, this is the high point, or we've reached the high point in the market here. So again, thematically for this day with this schedule, it's like, all right, what's the price that you'd want to bet on the Bruins? Like my number was like minus 104, right? And then you see, and you fire it up here, Zach, and it's like, yeah, guess what? Best price is minus 105. So it's like, okay, like we're close to it. And maybe it's just, all right, I'll take the slightly, like literally the smallest possible sort of bad number here, or number that I wouldn't necessarily want to get, because I'm sort of just intellectually aware that the Predators rating is getting as high as it's been, not just this season, but in years, right? So that's where, and I asked you what the lean was. I was curious as to, whether it was a ride or a fade of this Predators run here beyond, obviously the total. Because, yeah, like this is one where it's like, yeah, if the Bruins win tonight, you'll look at that and be like, yeah, like, man, we missed a really good opportunity, a really good buy point on the Bruins. Even though, like, again, I still don't have them rated as high as the market does, but I still show value on the Bruins in this case. That's how high we've gotten with regards to the Predators, right?
This has to be their high point in the market. We keep saying that, and then they keep moving higher and higher, right? Which is why, like, honestly, you asked me my lean. I don't even have a lean, and I wouldn't bet the side anywhere, where it is right now, anyways. But like, I do think we have to be now at the high point for the Predators. Like, are we really going to be at a point in like 2 weeks from now where they're like minus 120 at home to the Bruins? I can't imagine that to be the case, So this has to be the high point now. How much better can they possibly play, or what more can they possibly show over the next few weeks to like be at a point where we're in the playoffs and they're like playing the Jets and they're minus 140 on home ice? Like, there's no way.
Right. And I will say that, like, technically, based on sort of my tracking of it, their high point came before the loss to the Coyotes, where they were rated sort of going into that game, they were minus like 170 on the road. Now it is the Coyotes, I completely understand that, right? But this is a Predators team that had basically been rated average or below average all season. They were up into like the 10% above average range going into that game, which is like Tampa Bay Lightning, aren't having a great season. Honestly, it's the same rating as like the Toronto Maple Leafs, right now, from a market perspective. So it's like, going into that game, it was like, yeah, are the Predators good as Toronto? It's like, no, but like they have been in a short period of time, right? And it's like, is that going to continue, or is that just a hot streak, right? So that's what you're sort of having to battle with. But at the time, it's like, well, I'm not going to ride the hot streak with the Predators at minus 170 on the road. And then I'm not going to ride the hot streak with the Predators even as underdogs against Colorado, who obviously have a longer track record of being really good, right? So it's not like we've been, it's not like their rating has suggested that you buy or that you sell necessarily, because of these two scenarios. Both ended up being losses, but that's not really all that relevant, to these points. It's like, yeah, there isn't this spot to sort of ride them, even beyond this crazy high level, right? Like that part is past. All right, like we've gone past the point of where the Predators were a valuable team, right? Like that happened already, and now it's sort of like, all right, are you willing to fade them, or are you just willing to ignore their games entirely until the price sort of corrects, right? But because we are so high here, and it is the Bruins, a team that like circumvents all like ratings and like how good they're supposed to be on any given basis, like. This seems like a time to buy the Bruins. So, am I willing to maybe pay a price that I wasn't necessarily like looking to? I think I might be.
Well, Moretto, I'm hoping you're holding on to some Predators futures, are you?
Honestly, I'm such a loser. I hyped up the Preds so much, but they've exceeded even my expectations. I have a lot of like to make the playoffs and point total over and stuff like that. I do not have a single Stanley Cup future. I think I have one Western Conference that was like a small one. I do think so too. Ultimately, I think
you're gonna be fine.
But like I normally like you're gonna like I did that with the Diamondbacks of baseball. Like, yeah, I don't think they're gonna win the NL or the World Series last year, but like I really liked the team and I thought the market was way too low on them. So like I took some of them and hey, they came through, or like whatever, you can do something with them down the line if they make the second round or whatever. Yeah, I didn't really do that with Nashville, and I talked them up so much. Now, like point total wise and to make the playoffs and stuff, that's all gonna be very nice. Maybe recoup some of the All-Star break to present losses that we've had in this on this show. But Yeah, it's great to see. It's great to see everyone who talked down the Predators, said they were no good, said they were not a playoff team. You know, Rob's wearing a Predators hat on Edgework. Like, I started a trend here, and
They're coming out of the woodwork.
I'm glad that yeah, bandwagon's full, guys. All right, bandwagon's full.
There's plenty of room. I think there's probably seats.
All right. Final game of the night that we've got to bet in here, and this would come at the hands of two teams who effectively the show has not been able to get a grip on when it comes to the betting perspective this season. That'll be the Vegas Golden Knights and the Vancouver Canucks. You know, Russ has talked about it. He's shown edges against the Canucks all year, and he basically just had to stop betting those games. He was talking to someone and he was like, I don't know what to do. I've got numbers that say bet against them. I just can't do it anymore. I just stay the hell away. And this Vegas team, if you've been following us for basically the last year and a half, the entire time we've been doing the show, this has been the same story for Vegas as well. Edges against Vegas, we lose. Edges on Vegas, we lose. That's just how it's gone. So this should be fun to hear why Matt has any interest in this one at all tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to say anything because I think you covered it. Like, you just, virtually took all of my sort of feelings, points, etc. Because, again, thematically, and all around the same prices, target price for the Golden Knights, minus 136 tonight. Throw it up there, Zachy boy. Here we go. Look at this. You know what I mean? It's like minus 134, minus 142, minus 137. Now there is obviously a rogue minus 125. We'll see how long that necessarily lasts, or if that actually is sort of up there right this second. But again, exactly what Zach said. And the funny thing about sample size, right, is like betting against the Canucks has become more valuable in the last 10 games. And so it took essentially 50 to 60 games for that sort of concept to prove correct, right? Like the numbers were telling on a game-to-game basis, no matter who the opponent was, the numbers strictly said to fade the Canucks based on comparison of what the number should be versus what the number was, right? And they win all those games to get to the position that they were at around the All-Star break, have sort of that weird stretch after the All-Star break, and then sort of a somewhat, as Alex says, low event hockey stretch here where, you play yourself some low event hockey and accidentally kick the puck into your own net a couple of times against the Kings, for example, last week, and you lose that game, right? Because you're playing this sort of, quote unquote playoff style hockey. Like, you're probably going to lose games when you're booting the puck essentially into your own net once or twice a game. So, point is like, over this last like month or so, baiting the Canucks has been a valuable, proposition. And at that point, it's like, do I want to do that? Or do I just want to leave this game alone, especially against a Vegas Golden Knights team that, as much as I try to quit being involved in their games, I still end up finding myself on a Saturday on the Minnesota Wild with a 1-0 lead in the third period, only to see, a 2-1, 2-on-1 rush, have a goal scored to tie the game, and then that fiasco in overtime. So like, no, like these two teams, like, do I want to get involved in them in their game tonight? No, I don't. And at a very minuscule edge, in one or two or three, outs, like, no, I'll pass on that. So, we talked about this before the show. It's like, how many bets do you have on the games tonight? And it's honestly like not that many, because whether it's the teams that are involved or the matchups that they're involved in, they're just not that interesting for me or worth the psychological warfare that our guy Russ is, for example, has had to deal with.
Fighting demons.
Yeah, man. And it's like, at this point in the season, it's just like, let's just get to the playoffs, or we can figure this out over 7 games. And I know 7-game series sadly isn't enough to sort of determine who the best team is. That's been sort of statistically proven over the years, but it's like, it's better than watching these third periods and these overtimes and these shootouts, man. Yeah. So hard pass on this game.
Moretto, you got any opinions on the Vegas Golden Knights or Vancouver Canucks and where this total and sides are currently sitting at right now?
Yeah, I strongly lean towards
here we
Vegas.
go, another lean.
No,
we're gonna sleep on the leans tonight.
Well,
Alex,
that would be a good start for the vibes. All right. I lean Vegas. Don't quite want to get involved though. Haven't done it for similar reasons to Matt, I guess. Also like kind of seeing some over money at some prominent spots. If we can maybe push this to 6. If we see a 6 flash at any point, like I will be on the under. I will definitely be on an under at 6.
I don't know who's
5.5.
betting
I just don't want to do it. Vancouver defensively, like obviously we bet a lot of their unders this year. They've kind of dropped off a tad, a little bit like less low event hockey than they had been playing before. But like that's how Vegas wants to play. That's how both these teams fundamentally want to play. Like this profiles as such an under matchup that yes, Vancouver's giving up a little bit more, and maybe Vegas is generating a bit more offense as they start to sort of get healthier and figure things out closer to the playoffs now. But I don't know. This definitely shouldn't be at 6. It's not at 6 right now, but like the way it's moving, I would not be surprised if a 6 flashes at one point. At which point, I will definitely bet an under as quick as I can.
All right, there you go. That's all we've got for bets today. I think we got to the games even people in the chat were kind of looking at there as well. So that'll pretty much do it for us for today's show. We appreciate everyone who watched, who followed along. If you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, and as I said, please hit the notifications button so you get notified every single time that we go live here on this channel, new videos drop, whatever. As we get to the playoffs, we'll have playoff series breakdowns, series matchups, previews, best bets for those, just like we did last year as well. More watch-alongs coming up to close out the rest of the season. But first one would be this Thursday for the end of the 7 o'clock games, and then as we push into the 8, 9 o'clock games here. So this Thursday, live watch-along right here on the Edgework HQ YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss it. As for our best bets here tonight, we've got 4 for you guys. So breaking those down here now, and again, you can find them all in the BetSafe app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. We're going to start with the Capital Sabres over 6 plus 101. We are also going to take the Sabres money line minus 130 there against the Caps. Then we're going to go to the Panthers Habs under 6 minus 115. And finally, we're taking the Bruins Predators over 5.5 minus 120. Those are our 4 best bets for tonight. And gentlemen, I think we've got a 4-0 night on our hands. I believe.
I mean,
I believe.
at least
I'm going to mark Messier it.
We will win tonight.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I believe in you guys.
We didn't talk about the Blackhawks or the Ducks. Should everybody throw them in a reverse puck line parlay? Did you see Saturday with the Sharks and the Blackhawks?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was,
and then the first thing we were reminded of, I believe it was Jordan who came to the chat and was like, hey, minus 1.5 parlay would have won and minus 2.5 or something like that. I was like, oh, fucking, that's wonderful. Like, like we had ourselves a kind of crappy day across the show as we had put those like Saturday picks out, and then Jordan comes and throws that, and it's like we could have just given that out and been good on the day, but
for the year.
Fuck. Yeah, for the year. yeah, exactly. Only 62 to 1. Yeah, is that good? I'm just asking for a friend. All right, well, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel on your way out. We appreciate everyone taking the time to watch with us. Watch us this morning. Matt, Alex, thank you guys as always for taking the time to do this and break these games down. We got a 4-0 night on our hands. We will win tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time to recap our perfect night, to break down the games for tomorrow night, and then we will see Matt back here next Tuesday at 10:30 as well. Enjoy the games tonight, and good luck on your bets.
I believe.